A savvy and free-spirited surfer gets abducted onto the Psychotics Man boat, and she must learn how to escape before she gets taken into the ritualistic shark feeding. Hello and welcome to Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Jess, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Dangerous Animals. Was it a good shark movie? Was it bad? Or somewhere right in the middle? Let me know all your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the comments below. And taking it right in a positive, the Dangerous Animals is crazy within the cinematic event that it brings. It's a must-see in the biggest theaters that you can, because it holds some of the greatest shots that I did not expect to be getting out of this film. What we're getting out of this fishing, the catching of a fish, certain events near the end, and also just the way you're visualizing the artistic design of the ocean goes into a cinematic appeal that I did not expect this type of film to capture. So it's a beautiful and wonderful shark film that the sharks look incredible, the way they highlight them, the way they show the menacing appeal, and also the beauty of their appeal when they go into a shark cage that's specifically designed, of course, to keep them safe. And that opens up this film to getting a couple into the shark look at the events. They'll look into the sharks and how you're starting out with a nice, lovely environment that, of course, leads into a certain event that alters into the main plot of this film, introduces us to the main characters, and the film progresses rather quickly within the way you're taking on the meat of the substance as a whole, going about the psychotic man, going about certain things, and when you're not knowing what to expect, the person that is the subject of the story is not the person that you come to think is the way he is. And so how that all unfolds and the chemistry between these characters, what we're getting out of the actors is great. Jai Courtney is wonderful in the performance he gives, being psychotic, being creepy in a way that it becomes all unsettling as a whole. He has so many scene-stealing moments, and Hai Hasserson is also wonderful as the free-spirited worker surfer that just does well in her performance just as well. That leads into Josh Hutcherson that also delivers on the chemistry he has with Hai Hutcherson and delivering with what you're getting out of the two as lovers later on in this film. The chemistry exploits itself well and wonderfully with how it progresses throughout, making you enticed by the scenes between the two, and also how it becomes scary later on within the film, how the story progresses, how it leads on throughout, giving you some scene-stealing moments within each of the two that really highlight this show as a whole. Jai Courtney and Hai Hutcherson, what we're getting out of that just delivers the front that this film is asking for, and the shark feeding scenes is really something that delivers on what the fear factor of sharks are as a whole. And so it ultimately builds upon the story in a unique and original premise that I'm really fascinated by and entranced by some of the parts on screen, especially when you get into those beautiful shots of catching a fish, looking at the sharks, other things visualizing the ocean, and even one part I can't spoil near the end of the film is just a wonderfully shot piece of ingredient to how you're visualizing some of the scenes you expect to be so casual within the film. They highlight it in the best way possible. The cinematography is a standout. The actors just really do all their roles as a whole, which makes it effectively a fun and visceral experience as a horror movie that I did not expect. Which takes me into the mix elements. There's some ingredients to this film that goes upon rather predictably. The nature of how things progress, the way things go about as a whole, leads you into directions where the exposition can be a little long, overstay its welcome, especially after the prologue that we started with. Some of the aspects of how we're starting the chemistry between our main lovers of the film gets a little pandered and just sort of wanders about at first as a whole, doesn't necessarily feel always realistic in the approach that it sort of goes about. The dialogue not being totally authentic, but how it wanders on through the film as a whole. The events of the film, of course, can be the highlights, but you may want a little bit more out of the characters, which it doesn't always lend itself favor to. So, leading forward with that, it goes about a certain progression that takes its time, even though it's 93 minutes and can be easily worth the time viewing the experience for. It is gory. There's certain aspects where those are turned off by sharks and the true effect of it looking totally realistic. This lends itself to looking totally realistic. So those that don't want to see something that's bloody and sort of along those effects, well, it doesn't exploit itself with always looking gross for the sake of looking gross. It does have those moments that you may want to avoid, which takes me into the negatives. Ultimately, there's a factor to this film that you're just really progressing this forward in a way that doesn't always lend itself superficially to the audience, the nature of how you're establishing the characters, even if it's not always predictable in the way it comes off to appear. There's some gory parts or someone biting a finger for the sake of it, and it doesn't necessarily always seem to make sense for the story progression, what ultimately comes out of it, and certain other aspects along the lines of that just feels a little bit extra and unnecessary for where it leads on with this film. And there's a suggestion of adding another girl to the plot that shows a scary moment because you know what has happened in the past related to that, but it doesn't lead to anywhere with the events. You think it might be a lead up to adding another character to the cast, but then it just gets abandoned later on. So the way that all comes about, it has the right tension lead ups, but not necessarily always establishing itself as a whole. Which takes me into the rating, which I have to rate this film a simply 8 out of 10, which I really enjoy all the nature of the plot that it's all heading for. The cast is wonderful, and how it elaborates on its premise as a whole. It highlights itself in the best cinematography within its action shots and certain aspects that I didn't want it to highlight. So that's just my personal thoughts on Dangerous Animals, which I have to rate as simply 8 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Dangerous Animals. Was it good? Was it bad? Or somewhere right in the middle? I love to know all your thoughts, what you agree, what you disagree with my thoughts just as well. And make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already to join in film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So that's just all. Make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.